residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm your voice, loud and clear, and I won't be blocked and I won't be diminished of what took place here in Abbotsford. Before I begin today's podcast, I want to touch about my MLA, Bruce Banman, and where he needs to pay attention where his Conservatives are collapsing and trying to prop up Brad Viss and blame the federal government. So let me give you an update before I begin today's podcast. Yesterday I showed you that the road up in the gravel pits that led to Atchison is the road to connect you to number 3. I was in and out of it all day. When the city of Abbotsford found out that I knew it was going to embarrass Ross, they ordered flaggers in the Abbotsford police to block it, cutting off people in Burton and Harrison and Mission with a massive load of people trying to get back to this town, which was unnecessary. When Henry Brown stepped in to teach Mogill a lesson and dismantled the Dike and Ditch Committee that sat on watch to clean the sludge out of here, Bruce Banman, the sludge out of the ditches, rather now, the water being 10 feet down, the sludge is 10 feet high, and the water overrises. That if you ever were in the kitchen and you filled your sink with dishes and tried to fill it, you'll know what that means, Bruce. Doing a podcast with Brad Viss ain't good enough. You should be stating that Ross Siemens should have reactivated the Ditch and Dike Committee, and he didn't do that. And he put the farmers in harm's way, and you should be advocating that Ross Siemens should be facing jail. You should be advocating purposely that Ross Siemens' rocks all on Gladys Avenue went to block the homeless to help Ron Funk of the verse. The unnecessary of stealing $14 million and everything, and after the last flood, he had plenty of time, and he didn't do it. This is all damage control of friends of friends of friends. When my farmers were devastated again, there is no way that you should look away from this period. So let me give you a little update now. So first I'll help my MLA, Bruce Banman. The Hat Creek Ranch sold, which is unceded territory, ancestor land, and the Native Indians paid a little over $8 million. So Bruce, Abbotsford residents and everybody said, where did you get this proof? Here, Country Life magazines, right front and center. And you can see here, Bruce, the Native Indian chiefs and the people that bought it. You should be arguing that David Eby should be giving the money back to the First Nations, and why did he do this in Richmond, and asking for the RCMP for insider trading information if he knew that Henry Brown was, or was he tipped off to say sell it. When 1BC sees this, they're going to know the incompetence. I'm running for mayor. If you want to step down and run for mayor, Bruce, then we'll do that, and you can leave the BC Conservatives. My farmers are devastated at the hands of ignorant, arrogant people that are trying to infiltrate money out of the federal government. In fact, the matter is the gravel pit's been running gravel at Barreltown unnecessary. None of these ditches were drained after the last flood. Ross Siemens should resign and maybe look at the federal government looking at charges, not fly into Ottawa and try to, with Brad Viss on his lap, and all these people, and try to embarrass Carney. The Conservatives federally are a bloody joke, and everybody's a joke because this was done on greed, and there was nobody having common sense. Where are our city councils now? Running and hiding. Where is everybody? Running and hiding. So let me tell you, Bruce Banman was the mayor, and he advocated when he left, before he left, that the floods and the ditches need cleaning, and Henry didn't do that. Henry came in and wanted to teach people a lessons, and he dismantled the Dike and Ditch Committee that the farmers sat. That's how I knew Atchison Road, the gravel pits, and how to get around, and Abbotsford Police didn't. We didn't have a rescue team here, no more. We're going to send the Abbotsford Police to run up overtime and double time, which should have never been done. So the first thing that needs to be advocated is Ross Siemens needs his ass kicked out of Ottawa if figuring that he's going to go there. What is my put of this? Let me tell you. To the federal liberals that are watching, the Conservatives here in Abbotsford are outraged, even at Brad Viss. They might even push hard enough to Brad to cross the floor so you get a full majority. The federal government needs to come in here and make sure nobody gets that money. Not Henry's hands, not Henry's friends. And they build this infrastructure with their contractors, and nobody in Abbotsford gets any of this money at all. The purpose of this flood was caused by Ross Siemens and the city councils knowing after the last flood that they should have cleaned these ditches. They should have then secured with all the dirt they could get for contractors building against the Nukes Act. Not trying to make the Americans look better. worse. What I would say with Brad Viss and Ross Siemens on his lap, why don't you fly to Washington and take it up with Donald Trump that support farmers and help farmers, and he'll send you flying and packing. This is a money grab. This is incompetent people. These were people that were scamming on job sites and using city to gain over taxpayers and not looking after their farmers. This should be before the Supreme Court of Canada looking at the city councillors, Ross Siemens, engineers and managing and being charged. So I want to tell my farmers, the last time you were flooded out, remember Henry told Marion Muscadam, shut up, let water be under the bridge. You have enough evidence showing that the city has failed to clean them ditches that George Ferguson did and them culverts to keep it up, to bring charges against them, and I will stand front and center beside you and go after Ross Siemens' assets and tell Bruce Bannon to fix his BC Conservatives that are fighting, and maybe go and get proper people that will look after residents and their voters. When one BC sees all this at the Hat Creek Ranch of Henry Brown and everything, Henry was the instrument of screwing everybody over in Abbotsford and threatening with his establishment, and it needed to stop. This ain't a flood by the nukes act. It's actually a blessing from God to flash out all the corruption of what they were doing. And Ross failed, council failed. There's no excuse but to ask him to step down. So Ross, let me tell you, I wouldn't be flying to Ottawa because Carney would probably chain you right up and tell you what you did to these farmers. And Carney would get more reviews, and probably all the Conservatives will walk over and give him a mandate, because that there is a Conservative riding, and you've been pushing and pushing and pushing. And like I say, none of them cleaned this. And they blocked the contractors that would sludge it and get the sand to sell it. It was greed. To the federal Liberals that watch my podcast, Abbotsford residents are pleading on you to make sure all this money is taken out of the municipality's hands, and you designate the contractors and you come in and do the infrastructure, and you'll watch Ross, you'll watch Henry, and you'll watch everybody quit. The facts of the matter, these farmers shouldn't hold back now. They have had no reputation. It's bloody little scabs in Abbotsford City trying to say this. Where's Dreesen? Where's all these people? They had 4 years to fix this flood, and they haven't done nothing. They had 4 years to get out and clean this, and Ross spent all his time at his gas station. Well, Henry, can you run me from the back, Henry? Run me from the back, Henry. Run me from the back. The Bruce Bannon, the BC Conservatives. Why is Henry Brown's land on the Hat Creek Ranch sold? Unceded territory, the First Nations buying money for and paying for it with the province. The question you need to go to Victoria and ask, did David Eby knew that the First Nations should have had title to that land? And was there kickbacks? And what took place on this $8 million lift? And why is Richmond being seized and other territories and politics with Henry Brown, because he knew Pam and knew everything? So let me explain to all my leaders that watch. Henry Brown opened a door that his son gave the key to show all the ties through Ottawa, through Ed Fast, through Brad Viss, through Pam and everybody. And then Henry Brown went into the Abbotsford Police with his shithole friends and started threatening residents. And I brought developers, brought friends, brought outside politicians in and said, it's establishment and it's a mob, and we're going to go after it like none other. How tied is David Eby to this? So let me tell you, before I end my podcast. Trudeau was here in the first flood, and Henry tried to shit kick him and embarrass him, and he pulled the money out because Trudeau saw that it was about Henry's greed and the infrastructure for billions of dollars. But what Henry did not do is call the equal or more punishment out on David Eby. He shut his mouth and didn't say Eby was to blame for nothing or nothing. That kind of tells you they're laying in bed, and that will explain the Hat Creek Ranch. I'm live, Abbotsford, Fraser Valley.